Good morning, everyone. So today is not about a flashy announcement. It's about going through some of the nitty-gritty that our city enterprise and staff have been working on over the last several years around emergency management and preparedness. I know this doesn't sound exciting, but this is the work that will ultimately pay off in infinite ways in case some form of crisis or emergency takes place. I don't think that it's any secret to anyone in our city or really in the world that Minneapolis has gone through some extraordinary circumstances over the last few years. And I think it's also very clear that our response lacked to some of these crises and emergencies that we've experienced. This is about learning from our mistakes. This is about making sure that we are prepared when an emergency strikes. This is making sure that the channels of communication and direction are live and open from the very beginning so that no matter what happens, we as a city are ready. We're not looking away from the reality of what happened in late May and early June of 2020. In fact, we're acknowledging it. We're recognizing it, but most importantly, we're doing the necessary work, largely behind the scenes, to make sure that every single person in our enterprise is prepared. So that's what we're here to discuss today. We're leaning in. We've been doing the very tough and quiet work over these last several years, and we've recruited in some of the best, if not the best, people and implementing the necessary plans and procedures to face any storm that may come our way. We know that rebuilding trust between community and local government relies on taking informed actions just like this, learning from their mistakes, acknowledging them, and then moving forward with determination to make sure that we get it right the next time. The next time something goes down, we will be prepared as a city. And those solutions, they've come from city leaders and city staff, including those that are here with me today, with Commissioner Alexander in our Office of Community Safety, with Heather Johnston as our Chief Operations Officer, Director Lane, Director Bergstrom, Chief Tyner, and Chief O'Hara. They're going to speak to some of the specifics in terms of the plans that we've undergone over this past couple of years, but I'll give you some of the highlights as well that you can set up in this timeline. First, in late June or early July of 2020, we immediately began down the road of getting an after-action report conducted. That report and the shape of it was then authorized in February of 2021. We got the report back in, I believe, March of 2022. The work didn't begin once the report itself was issued. A lot of the recommendations had already been being worked on by our city staff. There were 27 recommendations that came through that after-action report. Already 17 of them have been completed. Of the remaining 10, several are in progress, and there are still a couple that remain to be completed and done. Since that point in time, every single department has been working on implementing these recommendations, and our city leaders have been undergoing quarterly reports that have been administered and delivered to the City Council and the Committee of the Whole. I myself, along with our respective department heads and commissioners, have been taking the necessary training so that we are prepared. We want emergency management to be baked into the walls of City Hall. We want this to be muscle memory. When an emergency takes place, of course, it will always be possible, even with the best plans instituted, that our city could be overwhelmed. That being said, we want to make sure that we are as ready as we can be with the staff that we have here at the enterprise, and we've got the right channels in place for collaboration across many different jurisdictions. Overall, the predominant theme of the after-action report is that the cities did not properly and fully use the necessary national incident management systems. That is what we have been training on over these last several years. That is a work ahead as well. Under the direction of Director Lane, we're in the process of a NIMS reset. That's National Incident Management, and he has initiated a robust plan of multi-year projects to address and reset the city's capability to implement NIMS in an enterprise-wide fashion. This has been and will continue to be done through a series of trainings and exercises, and that will ultimately lead to some form of capstone that is anticipated to happen towards the end of 2024. We have applied to the federal government and through FEMA to have this capstone in place in Maryland, where our full city enterprise leadership team can go out, can operate in live simulations, and can better plan for anything that could be happening in the future. And obviously, on an interim basis, we are prepared as well, and Commissioner Alexander is going to tell you what exactly that looks like. So again, the application has gone in. We're hopeful that we will be one of the entities that is able to go towards this simulation. Again, that'll happen hopefully in late 2024. There are so many city staff that have been involved in this work and on the city's response. I really appreciate all of their work that they've done to steer this team. I want to thank, again, Heather Johnston, our interim Chief Operation Officer. I want to thank Commissioner Alexander for leading your teams under the Office of Public Safety and Office of Community Safety. I want to thank all of the media here as well, because in terms of the areas where we can improve, it's not limited to safety. In fact, it's not even limited to the city enterprise. We want to make sure that we are communicating the right information out to the public on a very timely basis. We want to make sure that those right channels are in place from the get-go. And again, in terms of the city enterprise, it's also not limited to the Office of Community Safety. There are a number of incidents that have even happened over this last year that show how we can put these this management structure and this emergency management plan in place. And I'll tell you, we've been doing things a whole lot better. There was the water main break that happened a few months ago, and that was an excellent response from our Office of Public Service. There was Operation Memphis that the Office of Community Safety led out, and although there wasn't need for a response in full, we were certainly prepared. There have been snow emergencies that have taken place, which we have found a number of ways to better utilize our emergency response and management system. So again, this is a source of, I guess, humble pride. We are recognizing the shortcomings that we've seen, the mistakes that have been made, and we're correcting them. That's the message that we're here to deliver to you all today. We will be prepared the next time an emergency takes place, and it's in large part due to the people that are standing here behind me. So I want to thank everybody again. I mentioned before, I really want to give another big thank you to Director Bergstrom and Communications, to Chief O'Hara, and to Chief Tyner, in addition to our commissioners and our Chief Operations Officer. And with that, I want to turn this over to Commissioner Alexander to give you a bit more of a rundown on how this emergency management plan is undergoing.
Thank you, Mayor, and good afternoon for being here with us. The City of Minneapolis continues to make significant progress in addressing recommendations raised in the 2020 After Action Review that we are providing the community with the update on today. At the direction of Mayor Frey, the Office of Community Safety was created 8 months ago to enhance and unify the daily operations, preparation, and strategic priorities of 911 services, emergency management, fire, police, and neighborhood safety departments. The City of Minneapolis must have these 5 departments functioning efficiently and effectively daily to ensure the safety of our residents in the preparation and execution of crisis situations. This unified effort has already paid dividends. For example, the progress reported here recently from Operation Endeavor, as well as the intentional preparation from internal and external departments and partners for Operation Memphis. I want to commend Director Lane and his team for their leadership in completing a significant portion of this work. Chief O'Hara and Chief Tyner, I want to thank them for their leadership teams where they have worked diligently to respond to many of the outlined recommendations. For today's presentation, Director Lane will highlight the implementation progress made by the City of Minneapolis, The Office of Community Safety Leaders before you today will be available for questions after this presentation. We know the city of Minneapolis has many challenges before us, but we know today that we're uniquely equipped to be able to meet those challenges, whatever they may be, into this 21st century. So thank you, and I'm going to introduce my friend and colleague, Heather Johnston, who's the interim city operations officer for the city of Minneapolis. Heather?
Thank you. When released in March of 2022, we knew this was not a report that could just sit on the shelf. At the mayor's direction, we immediately began a regularly scheduled briefings with the council to ensure that the policymakers and the public knew that we were implementing the recommendations in the report. My colleague, Commissioner Alexander, spoke to the coordination between the departments of the Office of Community Safety. We are doing that same coordination within the Office of Public Service, or OPS. In addition to ensuring that our 17 departments are participating in the emergency management training, the OPS recommendations fall within the areas of public information and communications. The work currently underway includes a review of the city's policies and procedures for the Joint Information System in conjunction with the emergency management, and a robust training curriculum of both online and in-person National Incident Management Systems coursework for the city's public information officers. Since September, the Office of Public Service has been leading work with a crisis communications firm to develop a citywide crisis communications plan. Planning has involved communications teams throughout the city. This planning has included an analysis of past, present, and future enterprise needs that will address crisis communications operational protocols for a variety of response events, including large-scale physical infrastructure failures like the water main break that the mayor mentioned, law enforcement incidents, public health events like COVID-19 pandemic, crises born out of racialized harm like the civil unrest, and financial or reputational crises. With information gathered from our crisis communication planning sessions, we will work together to further align the city's public information and communications emergency operations plan and refine the critical incident communications protocol. Our communications team is working collaboratively with the Neighborhood and Community Relations Department, as well as other departments, to recommend next steps with a focus on improved sharing of information within the community. NCR provides leadership within the community relations section of the city's joint information systems and works hand in hand with city PIOs during a crisis. NCR is also working with city departments to evaluate existing community feedback that we have already received from the city's response to the civil unrest. We will be working with the city attorney's office to clarify the guidelines on curfew waivers, to reduce confusion and clearly communicate these guidelines to city staff and the public. As you've heard, improving our responses involve every department in the city enterprise. The clarified lines of authority within the new government structure provides a framework for the city to be set up for success in crisis situations. We look forward to training with our colleagues across the entire city to ensure that we are providing the emergency response that our residents deserve. Thank you. I'm going to turn it over to Director Barret Lane.
Thank you, Ms. Johnson. My name is Barret Lane. I'm the Director of the Emergency Management Department. Thank you for being here today. A year ago, Mayor Frey tasked me and my department with coordinating the citywide response and improvement plan associated with 27 recommendations in the after-action review that we've been speaking about today. Initially, we've broken that work down into two lines of effort. One line of effort, as you heard talked about before, is this NIMS reset. That's National Incident Management System reset. Part of the National Incident Management System is the Incident Command System, which you've seen referenced throughout the report. So those two things go together when you're thinking about this. Cutting across the report and many of the recommendations was this theme that the mayor mentioned as far as our capability to use those systems to manage complex events. And we determined that the most effective way of addressing that would be to simply retrain, re-exercise, and reinitiate that entire system. And that is what we have done. Over the course of the last year, we have scoped that project. We have found resources to fund it. We have contracted with exercise and training teams, and we have implemented a number of training opportunities already across the enterprise. We will continue to do that throughout 2023 as we move toward that integrated emergency management course that the mayor referenced as the capstone. That will be a federally sponsored course that will take all of the elements of our emergency management program through its paces at that federal level. We hope to hear in May of this year as to whether we're awarded that class or not. If not, we will test ourselves at that level regardless. So rest assured that that capstone is going to happen one way or the other. The other line of effort, since the various recommendations had to do specifically with department improvements and projects, we tasked out those specific projects, recommendations to the responsible departments, and they have been working on that series of projects over the course of the last year. You'll see in the report just two summaries. One is a scorecard on where all of those stand at a very high level. The other thing that you'll see in there is a schedule for the training and exercises that are coming up this year. So those really are as we look forward here, those are the elements that we will be implementing as we go forward with these two lines of effort this year. As mentioned, we've reported quarterly to the Committee of the Whole. The next quarterly report will be next week. We will be bringing this information to the City Council and working with them at that level as well. The one thing I would like to say in conclusion is that I think we can't underestimate the impact that the reorganization and the Office of Community Safety's structure has had on this project. It has accelerated the work. It has made it easier and more comprehensive to perform, and indeed made it easier and accelerated the work of even producing the report. This is a system that's working well as far as making sure that the 5 agencies are working together. But this effort is system-wide, as COO Johnston said. And as a result, one of the things we're doing is requiring every city employee to take basic course in emergency preparedness, continuity of operations, and personal preparedness. It begins at that grassroots level. So we are making progress along those lines, and we will continue to do so as we work toward reestablishing these capabilities for the benefit of the city of Minneapolis. Mr. Mayor?
So thank you, Director Lane, and I can't tell you how much we appreciate all of your leadership and organization as we've moved forward with this emergency management plan. Before I open it up to questions, I'll anticipate what could perhaps be the first one, which is what has been the biggest area of improvement and what were the biggest shortcomings. The biggest area of improvement has definitely been the new structure of government that Director Lane mentioned. This allows for a clear executive in our daily operations and a clear legislative council. This allows for a more clear directional authority. This allows for more clear communications to come out on a daily basis. And it gives us a bit of the practice that going into 2020 we did not have. None of us, including myself, were well practiced in a full executive level government because we didn't have one. Now that we have, we've been able to practice simulations, we've been able to study the NIMS system, and we can move forward knowing that regardless of what happens, we will be prepared. And so with that, I'll open it to any questions that you might have.
I have one.
Yes.
What, if any, of what you're talking about has any relevance to the decree, the consent decree that feds are going to come in? Is this parallel? Does that have nothing to do with?
So the question was, what if, yes. So it's a fair question, which is, what does this have to do with the potential consent decree that will come through the feds and or settlement agreement that could come from the state? The first answer is it will not conflict. The consent decree would largely be through our police department specifically and come in the way of reform. This is about emergency management much more broadly than that. There would not be any conflict. In fact, the emergency management plan that we're implementing would follow the federal procedures that have already been laid out. So there's no conflict.
Mr. Mayor, any recommendations that you fear you guys haven't met that
Well, there are 27 recommendations in full. Each and every one of those 27 recommendations, I think, are important for us to attack in full. As I mentioned, the area that I feel is both the most important but will also take the longest period of time to instill is this new executive form of government. It's not so simple as simply having the executive and then administering directions. We need to have that new culture baked into the walls of City Hall. We need to have that new culture embedded in muscle memory, and we've had over 100 years worth of a different system. So it's not as if you simply and suddenly shift everything. It does take some time, and we're all learning on that front. Of those 27 recommendations, as I mentioned, we've already completed 17 of them. There are 10 still to go. I'll turn it over to Director Lane if there are certain areas where you have any concern or certain areas that perhaps need to be bolstered further.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think you summarized it well. I think the one thing I would add is that we produced this report at the end of the year really as a snapshot in time. There was not an expectation that all of these would have been done by then. Each of these projects has its own timeline associated with it based on the department that's implementing that part of the plan. And the NIMS reset project was always going to be a multi-year effort in any event. So just to perhaps clarify that there are opens here, but that's not unexpected or not according to plan.
Are any of these areas going to be filled? Because this is in December, but we're coming up on a quarterly update, so I guess a follow-up on that question. Like, is there any difference with the list of which ones are completed and in process?
I'm going to turn the question over to Director Lane in just a second, but to reiterate a certain point, we're really proud of the 17 that we've met. We're proud of the progress that we've taken. And a lot of this was undergone even before the after-action report was provided. So again, this work is ongoing, and it's not going to finish once we've completed all 27 of these recommendations. Director.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I do expect to see an update next week, so you'll see some movement on that chart.
I have a question for the mayor. Mr. Mayor?
Yes, I'll go here and then here.
About taking necessary training for all these departments, what specifically have you learned through trainings that you've done?
So yeah, I've taken several trainings myself. Some of them are a few hours, some are the majority of the day. These are extensive, and again, they all lead towards what we hope will be a capstone in late 2024. One of the biggest lessons that I've learned is the areas where I should be involved and the areas I should not be involved. I am not the incident command. I am not the entity that arrives above the incident command, and I'm not functioning out of the emergency management center. There are certain questions in a well-functioning structure that will ultimately come up to me. And it's important, it's really important that we're trusting our experts every step of the way throughout this process. So much of this, again, has been allowed by this new government structure. Again, it allows us to train in ahead of time. It allows me to direct all department heads to come and attend these trainings. It allows us to coordinate better where we haven't been able to before. And so, yeah, I think we've all learned quite a bit. And again, those lessons don't stop here. They're going to continue. And I mentioned, this is kind of a state of humble pride or proud humility in that we're humble in that we had shortcomings. We're proud in that we are learning from them and we're correcting our mistakes and that we will be prepared next time there is a crisis or emergency. I promise over here next and then I'll go there, I promise.
Paul Bloom.
Paul, yes.
Thanks, just someone who
Yes.
is out there, and I want to understand how this comes to the ground. What happened out there? Is there a new strategy? Would a precinct be defended? How do we keep the city, a large swath, from going up in flames? Is there a strategic change in just kind of preparing for it? Is there anything you can verbalize here today just about what happened to our city in those days after Floyd?
So there's looking back and then there's going forward. Looking back, decisions like the 3rd Precinct I stand by. And that's not the topic of today, but absolutely I stand by that decision, given the circumstances that we were facing. Now, there's a framework going forward noting that when I say emergency, it's all-encompassing. It's not specifically unrest. It's not specifically a large-scale fire. It's not specifically a pandemic. What we are laying in place is the foundational structure, the lines of communication, the directional authority, and then making sure that everybody knows what they themselves are supposed to do and what they themselves are not supposed to do. When we go and do these simulations, we don't know what the specific emergency is going to be ahead of time. And the whole concept is that we're not preparing for one specific thing. If we could, we'd have no problem. If we could predict what the future is, and this is, then of course we could prepare. Something else that I need to state is that we could be fully 100% prepared with a full plan in place and still be overwhelmed. California Fire is not always able to deal in full with the wildfires that happen across their region. That's just one example. Similarly, we in Minneapolis, like anywhere in the whole country, can be overwhelmed. What we're trying to make sure of is that we have done everything that we can possibly do to make sure that we're prepared. Yes?
Just specifically on recommendation number 6, the civil disturbance policy, that's one of the ones that's in place. Would you let folks know, since protesting during the civil disturbance is such a big issue, there's millions of settlements, where those changes are, since there's a list about 7 or 8, just let folks know how things are going to be different if there is a civil disturbance and how things are going to respond.
Yes, I'm going to call up Chief O'Hara to answer that one.
Thank you, Mayor. So I think it's very clear to the members of the police department today where we stand as far as protecting people's First Amendment rights and where we stand as far as using force. And that's something that we continue to work on constantly to ensure that that message is received through training and reinforced by supervisors in the field. It's a major part of having accountability. The commissioner mentioned, our preparation for an operation leading up to be prepared for the release of body-worn camera video regarding the death of Tyree Nichols. And as a part of that preparation, I issued, a video message and very clear instructions to all sworn members of the Minneapolis Police that using force is only when it's absolutely necessary. And there are certain requirements that have been made because of the destruction that happened after George Floyd's murder here in regard to, specifically in regard to less lethal uses of force. And I've been very clear to the command staff, to all members of the department, that we will not use force unless absolutely necessary, and that we will ensure that we protect people's First Amendment rights constantly. This isn't something that applies only when there's civil unrest, only when there's a protest, that kind of thing. This is something cops have to deal with every day, especially since there has been so much scrutiny on this police department in particular. And they're doing a good job. There's constantly people challenging them on the street, recording them when they're taking appropriate actions. And I believe the police officers here are doing a good job, but it's a matter of me ensuring constantly that through the chain of command, through our command staff and our supervisors, that they are driving home that message every day in officers' conduct.
To that point, Chief.
For one more question.
Dave.
Chief, to that point, let's say you find out tomorrow you get an idea that a protest that was going to be 500 people is going to be, you're starting to hear it's going to be 5,000 people. Mm-hmm. What can people expect to see when they get out there? People who are going out there because they want to protest, they're not planning on lighting fires or anything. Are they going to see guys lined up in riot gear? Are they going to expect that pepper spray may be used?
I think people can expect, this is a city that constantly has folks exercising their First Amendment rights, right? So in the event there is something larger than what is just typical on a daily basis here, I think people can expect to see what they have seen led through the Office of Community Safety again, in preparation for video release of Tyree Nichols. I think people here in community know we have been very intentional about engaging with community and keeping people informed about what we are expecting to see and what our posture would be, and engaging community to have them help us on the ground and ensure that the appropriate messages are delivered by community messengers, right? Like to ensure that we will be here to protect everyone and to protect people's First Amendment rights regardless of whatever they are saying, right? But we have to make sure that the goal is, to ensure that people, stay within the bounds of the law, right? We cannot have destruction. We cannot have people threatening violence. We cannot have, that sort of sense of chaos. But we are here to ensure that we will protect people's right to assemble and people's right to protest. But we want to ensure that we're communicating with as many partners as possible and engaging with community to help us deliver that message.
Thanks, everyone, for your time. We really appreciate the coverage, most importantly because getting this plan out and the work that's being done is also essential to our emergency preparedness. So thanks again. Talk soon.